prayer, and I just felt it, and I feel like the whole team felt that, so I really wanted to thank you for that. Psalm 98, 1 and 2 says, "Oh, sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm have worked salvation for him. The Lord has made known his salvation. He has revealed his righteousness in the sight of the nations." So that's what I really want tonight to be about, just showing about how God worked his salvation and how I was able to be a part of it. And it was really a wonderful time. I got back a week ago Friday, so it's still all very fresh and very new. It's very interesting. 2 weeks, I don't think it's that long of a time, but coming back, you definitely notice a difference. So this was our team for the first week. We went to Honduras, and then for the second week, we lost about 5 of them. Well, they went home, we didn't lose them, but and then we got 3 more team members. So there were about 23, 25 people on our team for both weeks. Basic overview of a lot of what God taught me. He taught me to plan to be obedient. A lot of my Christian life has been looking for things that sound right to me, and so that sounds like good. God would probably like that, so I go ahead and do them. But one of the pastors was giving a sermon, and he said one of the ways to prepare yourself and arm yourself against the devil is to plan to be obedient. So that kind of just hit me right between the eyes. I was like, why did I not think of that before? So it was just very interesting to see how God taught me to do that, and then he taught me how to do it and how it made just such a difference on this trip as opposed to previous trips. Also, I learned a lot about how the spiritual battle is real, especially in Honduras. There's a lot of oppression from the local village. El Salvador and Honduras, the government is very Catholic, and it's also mixed with voodoo, so they really don't like evangelicals being there. So the spiritual battle, especially in Honduras, was very real. We had a translator, and she was going through some personal family things, and it was very interesting because one day we only had one translator, and it was only her, and she was just having an emotional breakdown. So it was like crazy to see like the things she was getting upset about normally wouldn't upset her, but like the day that we needed her, she was being attacked, and so it was very interesting to see that and to be aware of it and prepare yourself for it. And then thirdly, the big theme was study to show yourself approved. A lot of the sharing that we did was, again, with people raised in the Catholic Church that believed a lot on a work-based salvation, and they believe a lot of just what they hear from the priest or the people sharing in church. So a lot of our witnessing went like, so you believe the Bible is the Word of God, we believe that too, so you should listen to the Word of God, don't listen to what people are telling you. But if you can't tell them where in the Word of God the things you're saying are, it's like, don't listen to people, listen to God, but listen to what I'm saying. I know what's in there. So it was very convicting to know where things are in the Bible, to show yourself approved and be ready to give a defense in season and out of season. So that was very convicting. The first week we went to Honduras. This is at the Honduras border. This is the only picture we had with the border sign, so obviously none of us were ready, but it says welcome to Honduras. So we flew into El Salvador, and then it's about a 4-hour bus drive, but it ends up taking 9 hours because you have to travel exit port of El Salvador, entrance of Guatemala, exit of Guatemala, entrance of Honduras, and they have a very interesting system, so it's different each time, whether everyone has to get out of the bus and show their passport, or if they just count passports and count heads and say, oh, it's the same, you guys can go through. So it takes a bit to get there. This is where we stayed in Honduras. It says on the top, Bienvenidos a la Esperanza. This is the Hope Center. That's what SOS Ministries names the churches that they plant as the Hope Center. So this is the Honduras Hope Center. This is where all the girls slept. We slept like, just put our mattresses out in one of the rooms and check for bugs before you go to bed. And it was very interesting. This is called a pila, and it's in between the two. On this side were just rooms that were showers, and this side just rooms that are restrooms. But the government is in charge of the water and when it gets turned on and when it gets turned off. And because we're evangelical and not Catholic, they don't turn the water on for us. So the local church has a friend on the water committee, and he would come in at random hours during the night and turn on water for us. So, but they had a bigger pila in the back, but it's cracked. So filling this up, this is all the water that we had for 25 people to shower, flush, and wash their dishes and things like that. So there were a couple nights it was like, okay, well, we all know that we all smell, so it's okay if not everyone showers tonight. So, but that was something, I mean, it's okay for us to do for a week, but it's really a challenge for the people there to, so a lot of people from La Esperanza have gone back to the Catholic Church because in their homes they turn off water as well. So that was, but praise the Lord, we ended up being able to buy property right next door to the church and also across the street where there is a stream where we're able to pump our own water. So Monday and Tuesday, the director of the mission, Mr. Schott, and the local pastor, Alex, were at a lawyer's office working on buying this land, and they ended up buying it. So we got to do the groundbreaking, so that was really exciting. Everyone was like, yay, we have this land, and we moved sticks, and me and my friend Hannah, we wheelbarrowed like 10 wheelbarrows full of rocks up the hill, and then found out that's not where they're supposed to go. So that was fun. But it was really exciting because everyone, we've been praying that we'd be able to get this land. Everything legal there is just really twisted. So like I said, it took them 2 full days of sitting in their lawyer's office in order to get this land. So it was just a huge blessing. We were able to get it. Another huge blessing, the first 2 weeks before, usually they have a month-long trip and people come for the first 2 weeks or the last 2 weeks or any week in between. The first 2 weeks before I got there, Mr. Duggar from 19 Kids and Counting, he was there with a couple of his kids. And the church in Honduras, their truck had broken down, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but they couldn't afford to fix it, and that's how they bring everybody to church. Everyone rides like this. This is how we get around places, and if the truck can't pick them up, people walk more than an hour up the mountains and such to get to church, and so it's kind of a really big deal. So Mr. Duggar was able to buy this truck and donate it to them, so we drove it from El Salvador to Honduras. We got to present the church with that, so that was really cool to see their excitement. So that's why everyone's so excited about this truck. Because this is in El Salvador. That's where we were the second week, and that's where we fly into. It's more of the home base. So this just the multi-purpose room. This is during, I think it was church service. I think it was for women. We were singing. There's a welcome to the Hope Center in El Salvador, and that's just a picture of what it looks like from the outside. This is me and one of our translators, Claudia. She's a really good friend of mine. We got to sing for a youth service. She taught me a verse of a song in Spanish, and I taught her in English, and we sang it together, so that was really awesome to be able to do that. One really cool thing we get to do in El Salvador is, I don't know how many of you guys heard me talk about when I went in December, but back in September, Mr. Schott, the director of the mission, was in Nigeria, and their like home base area got ambushed, and he was actually pistol whipped and tied up by the people that ambushed them, and it was a bad situation. The Lord delivered them from it, but the governor of El Salvador is really good friends with Mr. Schott, and she heard about it, and she said, that's not happening on my watch. So now every time that we're in El Salvador, we have 4 guards with really big guns with us. So it's an extra layer of comfort, but at the same time, we're often reminded that that's not where our comfort lies and that's not where our protection is from. But it's also really awesome because they have to go with us everywhere, so they don't really have a choice whether they listen or not. So the woman in white is Mrs. Rasco. She speaks both English and Spanish, and so she was very faithful about having a Bible study with them and just witnessing to them constantly and making sure we didn't forget about the people that had been brought to us, not just the people we were going out to see. So from here I've kind of broken it up into the different areas of ministry that we did. One of my favorite things we do is also the scariest thing to me that we do is house-to-house visits. In Acts it says, Paul talked about how he did not shrink back from declaring to you anything that was profitable and teaching you in public and from house to house. So that's something it's really difficult to do here in America, because if you go and you knock on someone's door, they're probably not going to let you in. So the houses are very open here, but also Claudia had shared with me, because we were commenting like, oh, these people are so open, this culture is so open, and she's like, well, if I just came, they wouldn't let me in either. You guys are Americans, so they want to hear what you have to say. So it's a unique opportunity that we have coming from a different country. They want to hear what we have to say because we're different. So we get to use that. This was the first house-to-house visit I did in Honduras. You can see me like poking my head up back there. This was a lady that lives right next to the church, and she used to attend the church, but she felt like people were talking about her, and so it's like, churches, other places have the same problems we do. So she stopped coming because she didn't feel like people really liked her, and so we were talking to her about how that's not what church is about, and we were sharing with her not only with meeting with the fellowship, other people have things they can share with you, but you have things that you can share with other people. And we shared with her in Hebrews how it says not to neglect the gathering together. And in the middle of sharing with her, for me it's really hard in this culture because they don't like show anything on their faces, and I read off of people's faces. So oftentimes I'm very surprised by their response because she looked kind of like, she was listening, but like not that she really cared. But in the middle of what we were saying, she just like stopped and she was like, "I've been sinning," and I was like, whoa, how many times does someone come and tell me, like, "Hey, Grace, you maybe should work on that"? I'm like, no, I just call it something different. But she was just convicted, and it was beautiful. She was, "I'm sinning, I need to stop, and when's your next service?" So that was a really cool thing to see there. Whenever we go house to house, we bring them a gift, and so whether they accept our message or not, we leave the gift. That's one of the things we do. This was our second house visit to Harrison and Amanda, and I do not remember their daughter's name, but they were raised Catholic, and so we had one of the members of the team was also raised Catholic, and so he was able to relate to them and talk a lot about how it's not faith, or how it's not works-based, but how it's faith-based. And they were really quiet. They listened to what we had to say. When we go to house visits, we don't just like sit down and be like, "Hey, so what do you believe? Let's tell you about Jesus." We always make sure we take time to really care about the people. So we have been asking them what they do for work and how it was going. They farm to just to live. They don't sell it or anything, but that's what they eat. And it has been really, really dry this summer, so it hadn't rained at all when we went there. So they were saying it was really hard for them because they didn't have any rain. So when we were getting ready to leave their house, we prayed with them, and we prayed for rain, and it rained that night. And so that was like, that was really cool too. This is not Rigo, but that's his house. So I didn't have a picture of him. The man standing in the middle is Alex, and he's the pastor of the local church in El Salvador. But it's interesting sometimes going to different countries. It's really easy to kind of hide behind the language barrier and say like, well, that might have been an opportunity, but I don't speak Spanish. So a couple times we ran into people who spoke English, and so we went to a village called Amatepe, and we had been going and inviting people to come see our program in the middle of the square. And when we came back, Mr. Shaw was talking to this man named Rigo who spoke perfect English. He had been living in Texas for 15 years or so, and then he got deported back to El Salvador. So we were able to talk with him, and that was just really awesome to. We didn't have to wait for a translator. It was like on the spot, like, "Okay, guys, you ready?" Like, talk to him. So he was very much caught up in. His house is very large for the area, and he was very wealthy, so he was caught up in a lot of. That's what it's for. But he said, "Oh no, I have to go take a shower. I can't stay and watch your program, but thanks guys." But at the end of the program it started pouring, and he invited us all to sit on his porch. So it was just interesting to see like the hospitality offered to us after we had showed that we cared about him. So that was really cool. This house-to-house visit was unlike any other I've been on. This man is named Oscar. The way SOS Ministries actually started was Mr. Schott was doing a ministry at St. Petersburg College, and they did an international student outreach. And so the Alex, who is the pastor in El Salvador, he actually met Mr. Schott at SPC and got saved there and went back to his country and asked, "Can you help us plant a church?" And so the same thing happened. Oscar was at SPC, and he got saved, and he was really feeling a burden for his own people, so he asked Mr. Schott, "Can you come plant a church in my home country too?" And so they were getting plans in order for that, and 3 months after that, Oscar got a brain tumor, and he had to have it operated on. He was in a coma for 25 days, and when he woke up, he couldn't speak English anymore. He couldn't move half of his face. He's mostly blind, and he can't go anywhere because his equilibrium is so off. So he moved back to Honduras to be with his family. He still, just with the material things he had, was able to help the church out a lot, just make his house available. So we went to visit him. It's been 14 years since that, and we went to visit him to encourage him. one of the big things, he can't go to church because he can't leave his house, so just to come and even just sing with a group of believers was very encouraging to him. But so we shared with him, and then he wanted to share with us, and he told us that the past 14 years of his life have been the best years of his life because he knows Jesus. And so that was something, just, when James says, consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you face trials of every kind. And I always just kind of took that as meaning, like not hating God when bad things happen, or like being like, okay, I trust that you have a better plan. But he said those were the best years of his life. And I'm like, that is pure joy in your trials. So it was, one of our friends was commenting on it later, and he was like, it's kind of like we were coming and saying, we're sorry for the things you're going through. And he was like, well, what things I'm going through? So it was very encouraging. He has a wife, Valentina, and he has a daughter, Gracie, who's like 22. So I told him I would remember to pray. So that was just a really cool and encouraging house visit. One of the ministries we've done every time that I've gone there as well is in the city of Zakatakaluka. There's the largest Catholic church in the area. And I have a couple pictures. There's just so much idolatry in there. There's giant statues of Mary. Actually, way up on the top of the building, that's Mary on the very, very top. And this is inside the church. It's a statue of Mary crushing the head of the serpent because they misconstrued the verse in Genesis that says, and the seed of the woman will crush the head of the serpent. This is just Mary crushing the head of the serpent. They have all sorts of figurines of Jesus. This is him like in the grave. There's actually like blood on his face and everything. There's lots of ones of him still in the tomb, and there's lots of them him still on the cross. And people come and just like worship the statues. This is I don't know if they think it's a replica or if they think it's the real thing, but I was told that this is what they wrapped Jesus in when they buried him. And then this room was called like the holiest room, and they actually believe an angel brought down a piece of Jesus' flesh from heaven, and they go in there and they pray to it, and they stand in front of it like candles in front of it. So going in there is just definitely stirs up a righteous anger in your heart because there's so much idolatry, but at the same time it's very sad to see all these people coming and they have all of these cares and their burdens and they're taking them to the wrong place. And so we go in there, we've been asked, usually every time we go in there we get asked to leave, but we go in there and we bring, yeah, so we go in there and we bring Gospel of John. We see people, if they're like, we try not to disrupt whatever is going on, but if people are just sitting there and then we come and say like, hey, what are you here for, or what are you praying about, who are you praying to, just start things like that. So I was with a group, we had a translator, and me and my friend Hannah, and there were a couple of other people there. We went over and we saw this young man sitting down, and he was just kind of sitting there, not really doing anything. So we're like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm a janitor, I'm just like waiting to work here. And so his name was Christopher, and we started talking to him about what he believed, and we started sharing a gospel message with him, and this man comes up, he's dressed nicely, I think he was like a preacher or someone who spoke in the church, and he comes around our little circle, and he stands right behind me and Hannah and puts his hands on his hips and just like leans over, like the whole time we're talking, we're like, and so we keep talking, and finally he can't take it anymore, he just like butts in and he starts yelling at our translator, just talking really loudly, like puts his hand on our translator's shoulder, and we're like, okay. So finally he like gets all his steam out and he just walks away, and the translator German turns to us, he's like, he's trying to tell me that Mary's our mother, and I was like, Mary's not my mother. And I'm like, okay. So we're like, we want to keep talking to Christopher, so we can talk about this later. And he's like, okay. So we started talking to Christopher, and the church is from like noon to 2 every day, and it was like 11:40. We're pretty sure the other man sent another janitor over to us, and he spoke English, and he told us that the church was closing and we had to leave, and we're like, okay. So me and Hannah turned around to this guy, and he spoke very good English, so we're like, oh, where did you learn English? He was like, well, I lived in LA for a year, and I lived in Iowa for 15 years, and so we talked about snow for like 15 minutes. We talked about where his family and his cousins live. Other people were still talking to Christopher, and it was like kind of funny. We weren't trying to like be deceptive and like create a distraction, but it just kind of worked that they were able to finish up and we were able to talk to this guy. So he was like, well, I'm really sorry, but you do have to leave now. And we're like, okay, we understand. So we left the church, and we're waiting for a few other groups to finish up because they hadn't been asked to leave yet. So then the janitor that spoke English comes up and he's like, "Hey, I have a man you can talk to." And we were like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, I have a guy. You can come talk to him." We're like, "Okay." So we followed him. This employee of the Catholic Church brings us outside, and there's this other man. He's like, "Yeah, he fixes our lights, but he's not doing anything. You can talk to him." And we're like, "Okay." So his name was Roberto. We started talking to him. We shared with him the gospel. We asked him, like, "Have you heard anything like this? How does it sound?" And he's like, "Well, you know, it sounds excellent, but I've never seen God before." So we shared the gospel with him again, and then we also shared with him how in Romans it says that the creation speaks of the glory of God, and it's like, so creation is showing us God, and then we also have a Bible where, like, the Bible is the Word of God, and so he's showing himself to us there. It's like, and all of us that are coming and talking to you, we have God's Holy Spirit in us. He's showing him to you right now with all of us being here. So now you've been shown 3 times, so it's up to you if you accept or reject his free gift. And he was like, "Why would I accept it?" We were like, "Cool." So we were able to, we didn't have a full Bible, but we gave him a Gospel of John, and we prayed with him, and I guess he was moving to Italy the next day, and so we were like, "Well, this is not an accident that he ran into us today." So we just encouraged him to find a church that believes the Bible, get himself his own Bible. But that was just like, it shouldn't surprise us anymore, but it was just the craziest thing. Like, we walk into one of the darkest places in the country, and then this man is like, "Here, you can come talk to this guy," and he ends up making a proclamation of faith. So that was definitely, like, top 3 things on the trip that happened to me. It was very, very cool story. We also did public school ministry, which is always fascinating to me how much these kids listen in public school. It's like, it's crazy. But these schools were a lot smaller. Both of the Hope Centers in Honduras and in El Salvador happen to have a public school right beside them, so that's a really huge blessing. We usually get to go in there. This is the teacher of the public school in Honduras. Like I said, the persecution and oppression is a lot bigger in Honduras, and so if the government finds out that she invited us to school, then she will most likely lose her job. A lot of the children, if their parents find out that we were at the school, then they, I never heard of it happening, if it did happen or not, but they were telling us that if the parents find out, they'll probably keep their kids inside for the rest of the week. They might even, like, punish them for us being there. But the teacher really just wanted the kids to hear the gospel. She wanted us to come in, and so we were able to do a presentation. We were able to teach them a memory verse, sing a couple songs with them, and so it was really a blessing to see that. It's just, they also had, like, a snack time in the middle, so we got to just, like, talk to the kids. I know a little bit of Spanish, so I can ask them what their favorite color is and what their favorite animal is, and that's about it. So then we were talking with them. It was just pretty much how big the public school was. It was just one room. I think this was just kindergarten through 3 to 5. 3 to 5 year olds. This was the public school next door in El Salvador, and Mrs. Rasco had come down just for the purpose of teaching English in the school because they had asked her to come down and do that, but they kind of overlooked the fact that Monday and Tuesday of that week was just like there was no public school. It was like a teacher in service day. But about, not all of those kids that are in that picture, but there was about 10 of them that came to school voluntarily. Did you hear that, children? They came voluntarily to learn English. And then at the end of the week, I guess every year it's a traditional thing in El Salvador that the schools have a celebration day at around this time of year, and they usually have a cake and piñatas and clowns, I guess. But they weren't able to afford it this year, so they kind of mentioned that to Mrs. Rasco, and we were all able to pull together our funds, and we were able to get them a cake and a piñata, and one kid painted himself as a clown, and we were able to put a presentation on for them and play some games with them, so that was really cool. This is just a lot of the local ministry we did. I'm going to play a skit. Some of you guys might have seen it before. It's To the Lifehouse Song Everything. One day we were trying to figure out what to do for a youth service, and we were kind of asking Claudia what some of the youth they generally struggle with, and so she had told us, so we came up with this idea to do this skit, and it was really cool the way God worked everything together, because it's a skit I've seen in the U.S. a number of times, so I know the song is in English, and we were like, well, it'll still be powerful. It's like a mime. So they were like, it will still be powerful just to have music playing in the background, but at the airport, you can get 30 minutes of Wi-Fi, and someone was able to download the song in Spanish, so we were able to do it. We did it for the youth service, and Mr. Schott liked it so much, he's like, I hope you guys are ready to do this every day, because we're doing it for the rest of the time you're here. So we literally did it every day, sometimes twice a day for the rest of the time we were there. Originally, there was another girl in the main part, but she ended up getting sick, so I was understudy. So this version that I have is in English. On the last night, we were like, we're never going to do this skit again together, so we better do it one more time. So we did it in English, so I think it's a really cool skit, so I'm going to show it to you. To be able to do some of the places we were able to do it was just super powerful, super impacting, just even to be a part of it. And so that was a really huge blessing. Like I said, we did that a lot. We could probably do it in our sleep. So another local ministry we did was last year we hiked up a mountain from Honduras into Guatemala, and I guess the first 2 weeks of the trip they had done that, but that town is called Carcelito, but the place we went to was Carcelone, and so it was still pretty much just as big of a hike, but we did not end up in a different country that time. So we were still in Honduras, and it was interesting to be able to go to this city because they had tried a couple of times, and just various things had come up, and so they haven't been, I don't think since maybe not this past December, but the December before. So it was cool that we finally got to go there. I picked this picture because I look like I'm going on an adventure. I really liked it, so it's like, oh yeah, so this was in a random park right next to the largest Catholic church. So they had power, and we were able to do the skit there, so that was just a really cool place to be able to do that. There were lots of people gathered around just in the park, and so we sang a couple songs to get their attention, and we did this, and then one of the local youth actually shared what the skit was about, and it was really cool because nobody moved. Like, everyone sat there and listened the whole time. Oh, just one quick thing about, wait, never mind, just kidding. So this is the government-run orphanage called Isna. This is the statue that they have out in the front with all the children bowing down in front of Mary. So again, it's just the stronghold that the Catholic Church has there on, and how strongly they believe in Mary and her part in their salvation. So we went into the part of the orphanage that we call the cage. It's because they have to be locked in there. Someone has to let them in and let them out. The door is always locked. A lot of these girls are taken out of gang situations, so they have to be locked in or else they'll run away back to their gangs. But I mentioned this last year, but the really sad part about this is that the government only keeps them until they're 18, and while they're in there, they don't have any school, they don't learn any trade, just pretty much nothing, but they're held there. So it really doesn't do them any good to begin there because it's just kind of prolonging the inevitable. When we do face painting and nail polish and stuff, we can't let them have the paintbrushes because they paint the gang symbols on themselves and things like that. So it's very sad because it's very dark inside there, and it's very hopeless unless they have the hope of Christ. So we were able to do the skit in the cage, and these are just a group of the girls that are in there. Also in Isna they have they have a whole. It's really, really huge. So they have the cage, and then they have young boys, they have young girls, they have children with handicaps, and they have the mother and babies room, and the mother and babies room is generally girls around 15 and their children. So it was very sad to be in there. One of the very unique things we got to do on this trip was minister to a gang village. One of the most notorious gangs in El Salvador is Gang 18, and I guess at the beginning of the month, the village leaders had gone to the governor of El Salvador and said, we don't want our children to be like us, we want you to build us a community center. But the government is very afraid to touch this project at all. It's one of the most violent gangs in the country. For example, when we were at Isna, there was a 12-year-old boy in there, and he was not in there because he was an orphan. He was in there kind of like a juvenile detention thing. He had already killed 5 people, and he was a part of this gang, and he said that killing people is what makes you a man, and he took pleasure out of it. So that's just, the influence of the gang reaches down so young and so deep. So the 2 weeks before I got there, Mr. Schott and Mr. Duggar met up with the leader of the gang. He's wanted dead or alive in a couple of countries, so they had to agree to meet him on his terms, not bring any weapons, kind of meet at an undisclosed location type thing. And when they met him, he has the number 666 tattooed on the back of his head, and those numbers make up 18. So this gang is literally influenced by the devil. Gangs are a huge problem just in general in El Salvador, and the whole country's influenced them. So it was crazy to have an opportunity where they came and they asked for help. And so, like I said, Mr. Schott and Mr. Duggar went and met with the leaders and shared the gospel with them. They were not timid. They were very clear, very bold, and I was not there for that part, but hearing about it was giving me goosebumps. So we got to go back the second time. We went into the village. They were talking about plans for building a community center. The team mostly worked with the children. We did presentations with the children, and Mr. Schott and some of the men talked to the gang leaders because, again, it is still not the safest situation. So they have agreed, though, to have a weekly Bible study if we build them a community center. There are some ladies in the local church in El Salvador that are coming in, and they're going to teach some of the women how to sew, how to cook, things like that. So that's just something, it was super cool, not something that you get to do every day. It was pretty scary, but going there, it was very interesting. I was totally expecting like this village with like bars everywhere, and everyone would be tatted and like carrying invisible guns, and it totally wasn't like that. These are a lot of the gang members and a lot of the gang leaders that we're talking to Mr. Schott over there, but their kids are just kids, and so that was it was very saddening. We're playing clapping games with the kids. They like to clap a lot. Here, one of the village leaders, a lot of the village leaders are women, and in the words of Mr. Schott, they are mothering the murderers, is the way he put it, because they kind of are orchestrating everything. They kind of give them a place to stay, just kind of enable them to be able to do the horrible things that they're doing. So this is a group that was talking with one of the ladies. I think the first week that they went, she had raised her hand and made a confession of faith. So they were kind of catching up with her, seeing if she knew what that meant, seeing how she was doing, and they just got to pray with her. And so that's a really beautiful picture. But here's some of the kids. This kid really wanted me to paint his toenails pink. I was painting a bunch of the little girls' fingernails, and he comes over and he takes his shoe off and he goes like this. And so I told him like 3 times in Spanish, like, oh no, only for girls, only for girls. And he was like, so I painted his toenails, and then I was like, is that good? And he was like, so it was just, again, they're just kids, and so it was very interesting, just some of the faces, to go in there and share the gospel with them. I know Sylvia was sharing with someone later that I had gone into a gang village, and their response was like, well, why are you bringing them that? Like, they've probably already heard it, they don't need to hear it, like, they've rejected it. So it was one of those things, it's convicting. Sometimes it is hard, like, they teach 12-year-olds to kill 5 people, so it's really hard to think, like, well, they don't really deserve grace, but, like, sin is sin to God. So it was just very convicting they need the gospel just as much as I need the gospel, and especially bringing it to the kids, that was a great opportunity. Also, the local ministry, the local church, was amazing. These are all church members. This is again how they get to church. Some people call it playing sardines, but they call it going to church. So it was very, they're very on fire there. It's just very cool to see that and just be a part of it. This time, a couple of times we went out evangelizing. A couple of, before the night beforehand, we invited the local church, and so it was really cool. I got to know a couple of them that way because even though we couldn't really talk to each other, we were still going out. We were sharing the gospel together, and so that just like it's so cool to be able to create bonds, even though there's a language barrier there. So that was really awesome. This was in Honduras. 18 members got baptized, and so that was really a huge blessing to see and to be a part of. It's a lot more of a big deal there because, again, all the persecution, and so once you've been baptized, people kind of know, and that could hurt your job and your finances, things like that. But they were all so joyful. Another thing that's kind of scary is none of them know how to swim. So that's actually, it sounds kind of funny, but it's a big leap of faith for them to get in the water and be baptized because they don't know how to swim. So it was really cool to see all 18 of these people get baptized and just to celebrate with them. They're clapping and singing. We did a lot of clapping. These are just a couple of the people that impacted us. On the left is my friend Hannah, and then Cindy. Cindy's about 18, and she speaks a little bit of English. We speak a little bit of Spanish, so therefore we can be friends. Hannah's better friends with her than I am, but it is just really cool because I've seen her in last summer and in December, and so it's really cool to, you can ask like how's school going and how are things with this, and just be able, and then on the right is me and my friend Carlos, or Mario, or Charlie. I heard like 4 different names, but he was in our group for evangelizing. He's about 12. My name in Spanish is Gracia, which is really close to gracias, which means thank you. So in English, he called me thank you. Like every time he's like, hey, thank you, how are you? So we just were buddies from that, so it was just really cool. And then I already mentioned before that this is my friend Claudia. I call her my El Salvadorian mom, and I'm her ugly baby because I make faces at her. So it's been really a blessing to establish and grow a relationship with her over the time because she does speak English, so that's a lot easier too. But it's just really incredible to work together. She stays with the team and be part of the team, and so it's just awesome to have brothers and sisters everywhere. So I have just one more video slideshow, and then if you guys have questions, then that would be cool. For all the seeds that were planted, that the local church will remain strong in its ministries, that the Gang Village will attend the Bible studies, and that the knowledge and love of Christ will transform the whole country, and that the rest of the teammates and I will apply what we have learned to our own Jerusalem. That's always a very strong theme whenever we leave is, again, you come and you love these people you can't even speak to. What about the people you see every day, the people that you know? And so that's always just really connecting to me. So that's just a snapshot of what I did in these 2 weeks. I was joking with my friends, I feel like we've been in Narnia and like lived a whole life and then come back, and so it's like really hard to explain everything, but I'm really grateful for this opportunity to share with you guys and just share the awesome things that God did. So if you guys have any questions, but if not, then the end.
Did you actually eat Pizza Hut over there? I saw.
Yes, on the way back from Honduras, there's a Pizza Hut on the way, and usually it's everyone. You're supposed to bring a couple extra spending money and buy more snacks. So we usually stop at Pizza Hut there. One of the team members was kind enough to buy it for us, so we did. That was the pizza pooch that we were taking the picture with. So, but yeah, we did that one time. Thanks.
Actually all ride in the back of the truck that they bought.
Yeah, that's how we got most places. Not on the like 9-hour drive, but that's how. So it's like it looks kind of uncomfortable. It's actually really nice because especially in El Salvador, it is very, very, very hot. So that's kind of like air conditioning for the car. So yeah, we ride like that. Everyone loves to ride in the truck. So yeah.
Where do you stop and go to the bathroom? Or you don't have to?
Oh no, we have one gas station that we usually stop at, and everyone. The joke on the trip was if you carry toilet paper, you're like the coolest person in the world. We're like, you're cool, you're hip, you're modern. So everyone, you carry toilet paper in your backpack, and but that was talking about replacing toilet paper too, because just common courtesy things when you have a team of 25 people, you don't want to leave anyone hanging in the bathroom. So yeah, on the 9-hour trip we stopped at a gas station, and then at the borders they usually have, if you're brave, their bathrooms.
I don't know if you mentioned this, but I don't remember hearing, what did you do for meals? Did someone cook for the whole team? Or?
Yes, usually the elders of the church, their wives, they would come and they would get up very, very early to cook us breakfast, and they would provided the meals for us. They really took good care of us because there's not a whole lot that we can eat because just our stomachs aren't immune to a lot of things there. As far as water, we would buy like 5-gallon jugs. You don't, the rule was don't eat or drink anything you didn't break the seal on yourself. But yeah, the wives of the elders were very dedicated, and part of the funds that you raise for going to the trip pays for the supplies and the things like that. And at the end, we all, again, you always bring extra money for love gifts, and so we always make sure we make a gift bag for them and kind of thank them for their time. So, but they're not paid or commissioned to do it. They come do it because they love us. So it's pretty awesome.
Was Mr. Duggar there by himself or with his family? How long was he in that area?
He had like 3 of his kids with him, from my understanding. I don't quite remember, but they were there for 2 weeks, I believe. So. They go pretty much every summer since, I want to say for like 5 years they've gone like every summer. So. Tyler's back there like, I haven't gotten anything.